tonight. Our first speaker is Tim. Help me welcome Tim.
Hi, I'm Tim. I'm an alcoholic. And my sobriety date is May 18th, 2013. And, that's a day that I never thought would come. It's a day that I never thought that I wanted. And I thank God that that day came. And I'm originally from Buffalo, New York. There's not much to do there besides drink, eat chicken wings, watch the Bills lose. There's really not much to do. And I had my first drink at 12 years old, and, it was fun. I loved drinking, going through high school. My group of friends, we'd sneak out weeknights and then sneak into people's garages, steal all the alcohol out of their garage, stash it away for the weekend, throw huge parties on the weekend. That was kind of what it was like in high school. Really no consequences. Got suspended for being drunk at school once. And, that's when it was a lot of fun. And my first year of college, it was consequences started to arrive that I wasn't even aware of. And that was that I flunked out my first semester, and it was due to not being able to show up because I was hungover all the time. And I wasn't taking anything in life seriously, and it was just a party. And through my first, my first year after that, it was just drinking and smoking weed, and really no consequences for much else. And but the progression happened for me is that it turned into a daily thing, and I was willing to put any substance in my body that made me not feel like me. And one thing that has been with me throughout my entire life and into my recovery even is just that sense of not being good enough, or that feeling of not being good enough and not being loved, and just insecurities and fears, and all of that was things that the alcohol and just having some sense of relief from the just craziness that goes on inside my head. And it got to a point where I just needed more and more and more. And I was 20 years old, and this is when things started getting bad. People stopped trusting me, started to bounce around. I lived in New York, but my parents were in North Carolina. When things would get bad, I'd run to my parents and be there for a couple weeks, a month. I think the longest was 8 or 9 months, and every time that I'd remove myself from my friends and my home in New York, it was I was suicidal. I was left without any solution to the problems that were going on inside my head. And every time the desire to just have some kind of comfort and relief brought me back to what was comfortable to me, and it was go back to New York. And in 2013, over the course of 6 months, I stole about $10,000 from my brother, lost a couple jobs, lost trust from everyone that I knew, and I was really suicidal almost every day, and just accepted the fact that I was going to go on for the rest of my life living this lifestyle, and I had no hope of it ever changing. And I'm someone that has seen recovery in my own family. My grandfather was in AA, my grandmother was in Al-Anon. I have a couple uncles that are sober, cousins that are sober, and I didn't think that it was a reality for me, and it wasn't a solution to my problem. And I just had so many misconceptions of, I thought treatment was for rich people and celebrities, and AA and AA was for old people to sit in church basement and hug and cry, and NA was a place to go find drug dealers. I didn't think recovery was possible for someone like me. And I got to a point where the consequences forced me into a position to accept help that was there. And I had enough willingness to make a phone call to my uncle, who was sober for, at that point, I think 27 years, and he was in Arizona, and offered a solution to me. And he said a few things before I came out to Arizona, but one of the most important things was that he said, "Are you willing to do anything to never feel the way that you're feeling right now ever again?" And in that moment, I was willing to do whatever it took to never feel that way ever again. And the only option I had left was live at his house for 30 days. He said he'd bring me to a few meetings and see if I want to get sober. And there really wasn't anything else besides that. And I show up at the airport, and I think a few meetings over these 30 days. So that's like 5 meetings. I'll get to hang out in the sun. It's May. Everything's going to be, nice and relaxing. He picks me up at the airport and brings me straight to a meeting. And this meeting, it's called Saturday Night Live. It's in Tempe. And there was probably 300 people there, and high energy, people laughing, smiling. Just a great meeting. And I was just shocked. I thought that things like that didn't happen. And as soon as I showed up to that meeting, it was I had an experience with the first 3 steps, and that was that I was completely broken and hopeless and didn't see any way to have a good life. And I saw the powerlessness, and I walk into that meeting, and I instantly came to believe that there was another way for me to live. I came to believe that the people in that meeting had a solution for my life, and I could be restored to sanity. And I made the decision, I'm going to do whatever it takes to go through and have what those people had. I made the decision that I'm going to do these steps. I'm going to get a sponsor. I'm going to do the work. And I didn't know anything about what that work was, but I was introduced to it pretty quick. I got to wrap it up in a minute. So I'm just really quick. The biggest thing that happened in my life is that I had a suggestion that within the first 2 weeks of my sobriety, I'd get a ride to meetings by my uncle. He said get 3 people's phone numbers at that meeting and call them the next day. And I'm someone that's extremely insecure, shy, and doesn't want to talk to strangers, doesn't even want to talk to anyone. And I had enough willingness to go to a meeting every day, ask for people's phone numbers, call them the next day. And within that first week, a group of guys that were all around a year sober, they welcomed me into their group, and they just started picking me up every day, bringing me to meetings, taking me out to get coffee, to dinner. We'd have a big book study every Sunday, and these guys showed me how to live. These guys walked me through the book. It was a group effort to get me sober, and the results are amazing. The first friend that I met, within that first week, I was the best man in his wedding, godfather for his son, and we're still friends, over 6 years later, and things continue to unfold. I was able to make amends with my family. Just a couple years ago, my brother that I stole thousands of dollars from, we just went to Ireland and had a week vacation together, and went with my sister and nephew, and it's unbelievable the things that can happen in this program, and it's a result of all the people around me that did it for me. I was just willing to get in the car, willing to just show up and do what people told me to do. And for some reason, I have this amazing life today. So thank you guys for listening. I'll pass.